Hi, everybody. How are you? Happy Wednesday. It is another freezing cold day here in the Midwest. I hope it's warmer and sunnier where you are. So we have a really great topic to discuss today, and I am so excited to talk about it with you for a couple reasons. One is there are a lot of people that signed up and showed interest, so I know it's something that is on a lot of people's minds. I get a lot of questions from women that are struggling with weight loss at different stages of their life, and they are frustrated because they feel like they're doing everything right. They're trying. They might be working out 3 to 4 days a week. They might be trying to clean up their diet and eat right, and they're just struggling with seeing any results. No matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, no matter all the effort that they're putting in, they're not seeing results. And I feel for them, because it's not for trying. It's the effort is there, but the results aren't happening. And so what I want to talk about today is some really key insights into women's fat loss, women specifically. We have different hormones, of course, and so our bodies respond to stress and to exercise and to diet in very different ways, right? So welcome, everyone. I'm gonna just let everybody jump on. Sometimes it takes a minute for Facebook to get the notifications out. Hi, everyone. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Jody. Hi, Amber. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Dawn. Great to see everyone. Hope you're all staying warm. Much of the country is in this awful deep freeze where my dog doesn't even want to go out for his normal 3 walks a day. We're down to 2. But anyways, so lots of interest in this topic. It's a really common struggle, and I feel like it's really misunderstood. When people try to address it, they kind of talk around it a little bit, or they give very vague answers, or they just say the absolute worst thing, which is like, there's nothing you can do about it, right? So you may be going through some changes. Let's say you are in your 40s, maybe early to mid 40s, early 50s, and your body is feeling different. You may be gaining weight even though you're doing things that you have always done in the past that has worked. You may have less energy, just feel kind of flat. Maybe struggling with a little brain fog, sometimes in the afternoon, where you just kind of can't remember what you were going to do in the kitchen, or what was your next to do at work. You're just feeling a little bit off. You may be having trouble sleeping, either having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, waking up multiple times each night, or waking up too early every morning and not being able to get yourself back to sleep. You may be struggling with night sweats, or just feeling sort of irritable, off, mood swings, just not like yourself. Sugar cravings may be very high, particularly later in the afternoon or into the evening. These are all common symptoms of hormonal imbalance and stress in the body, and they can be addressed through lifestyle changes, through managing stress, through managing diet, through managing exercise, which is a form of stress. So we'll get into all of that good stuff in a little bit, but I just kind of want to paint the picture of what you may be experiencing and know that you're not alone, and it doesn't have to be that way, and there is help for you, okay? So if you're going to your doctor or your healthcare provider, or even your fitness professional, trainer, or coach, and telling them that you are feeling these things and struggling, and you get sort of a flippant answer of, well, that's what happens at this age, or, well, that's we're going through the change, or there's nothing you can do about it. I find that to be very dismissive and inaccurate, really. It shows that either they don't know, they don't have the answers for you from a lifestyle, bigger picture, holistic perspective, or maybe they just don't have the time or energy to sit down and talk through it all with you, because it is more complex. It's not as simple as saying here is a prescription, or here, no, there's nothing that we can do for you, but it's sitting down and going through your actual day and your weeks and your lifestyle and figuring out what is causing these issues that you are struggling with, okay? So I want you to, if you get that answer, if you get the flippant, there's nothing you can do about it, look for help somewhere else, okay? Trust your gut. Know that this is not how it's supposed to be, and that you just haven't found the right answers yet. But don't give up on yourself. Be curious, keep looking, and know with confidence that there are things that you can do about it. And we're going to tackle some of those things today. I'm going to share 4 key insights for you on female fat loss. Okay, all right, so we've got a good group on. Hi, Cecilia. We're going to go ahead and get started, okay? So I'm a visual learner. I don't know about you guys, but I love visual aids. And so what we're going to start with is talking about hormones that affect our physiology, okay? What we're going to focus on most, so here's my handy dandy whiteboard chart for you, okay? So think of this as a pyramid. At the base of the pyramid, we have insulin and cortisol. See the little stars by it? It's highlighted because it's really important. It is, think of it sort of as the base. The biggest effects on our female physiology are from insulin and cortisol. So that's what we're going to spend a lot of time on today. If you move up this pyramid, the middle part is our thyroid and adrenals, okay? Very important, but again, got to focus on the base first. And then at the top of the pyramid, we have our hormones, sex hormones of estrogen and progesterone, okay? A lot of times people go right to the top first without addressing the base, insulin and cortisol. So that's really what we're gonna spend some time on today. So again, we must address the base first. We're going to take a bottom-up approach, not a top-down approach. We need to have a good, solid foundation. We need our insulin and cortisol to be in a healthy and balanced place in order for everything else to work, okay? So in a nutshell, I like to take things that are sort of complex or that seem complex and distill them down into something simple, right? That we can all just like gather and understand and say, yeah, that makes sense. So to control cortisol, we need to look at managing stress, okay? To control insulin, we need to look at managing food, all right? So those are the 2 key principles. Let's talk about cortisol, okay? You've probably heard of it. You may have a rudimentary understanding of cortisol. It's a stress hormone, right? Stress is bad. We don't want our stress hormones to be too high. We want to manage our cortisol levels. That's usually, generally the understanding that people have about cortisol. I want to tell you a little bit more about it in terms of its benefits and, having too much of it. So cortisol is a stress hormone that works really well when it's balanced, meaning our cortisol levels, if we took like a little salivary test in the morning, should be at its highest when we wake up in the morning, from the moment we wake up. In fact, that is what wakes us up in the morning. The highest amount of cortisol is kind of what gives you that little burst of energy to get up and get out of bed. If your cortisol levels are too low all the time, meaning like you're just shot, like your body's not producing enough cortisol to get you up and out of bed, you may just lay there, you may have no energy, you may feel like you can't even get up. So cortisol levels should be highest first thing in the morning, okay? And then they should be dropping. So if it's like a little chart, it would be up high first thing in the morning and then steadily declining throughout the day naturally until we get to evening, like bedtime, and that's when our cortisol levels should be at their lowest. And that is when we start to feel tired, we feel a little drowsy, we're ready to go to sleep naturally, okay? We don't feel tired and yet wired. When cortisol levels are elevated too high all throughout the day, meaning they're up high in the morning and then they just hang out and stay up high until bedtime, that's when we can really have some trouble with our sleep, okay? So if we are under stress, high amounts of stress all the time, from work, from home, from exercise, okay, I'm gonna get to that in a second, we are going to artificially elevate our cortisol levels and disrupt our body's ability to sleep, and disrupt our body's ability to manage sugar, and disrupt our body's ability to burn fat effectively. So all of those things come into play. All right. So when we talk about managing stress, gosh, we could do a whole nother talk, a whole nother video on just that. But the two key areas I want to talk about in terms of managing our cortisol levels and having them peak at the right time and decline throughout the day until they're at their lowest before bed. Number one is to get into a good sleep schedule, okay? So really working on creating a routine that allows your body to have 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Regular sleep is really like the antidote to stress. It is our body's most powerful anti-inflammatory. So we really, really want to focus on sleep. The other area that we really want to focus on, and they go hand in hand too, they affect one another, is our exercise routine, okay? Exercise falls under the stress category, okay? Exercise is a stressor to our body. It may feel relaxing. We may feel really good, really relaxed after a workout, after a long run or whatever. But it is a physical stressor on our body. So we need to take a good look at how our exercise is affecting our overall stress load. If we are stressed out at work and at home, and also like putting extra stress on our body through a very hard, heavy workout, or long workout, and we haven't had enough sleep, that is kind of the recipe for disaster. That is what creates an overload of cortisol, where cortisol levels are too high all throughout the day. It disrupts our sleep, disrupts our ability to function, to burn fat, to perform in our workouts as well. So let's talk about exercise for women, okay? Most women do well on short, high-intensity exercise, okay? And long, easy walks, okay? Short, high-intensity exercise and long, easy walks. That's most women, biggest bucket. Most of you watching would do really well if that was your workout routine. Some women, a small percentage, not a whole lot, but some, there's always exceptions to everything. Some women do well with endurance exercise, going longer, long course marathon, long course triathlon. That's something that a smaller population of women really excel at, where their bodies respond very well to it. It doesn't create too much stress, and they may also be doing all the things from a lifestyle perspective, from food to sleep to recovery, that helps support their body and allows them to do that, okay? So when I say short, high intensity, what does that mean? I'll be more specific. That could look like a HIIT workout, a high intensity interval training workout, where you have a set number of intervals, where you're doing one exercise. Let's say you're doing burpees, or you're doing push-ups, or you're doing air squats or something. You have a set number of them that you do it very quickly, and then there's a rest period. So that's high intensity interval training, where you have a high level of effort for a short duration, and then you have built-in rest afterward. strength training, resistance training, working with resistance bands, working with heavy weights. Can't emphasize enough how important it is for women as we age to pick up heavy things and not be afraid to lift weights. There's seems to be, for a lot of women that I've worked with over the years, that there's like this resistance, a little bit of fear around weights, strength training, thinking they're going to bulk up, or thinking that, they're going to get too big, or all of those things. And I just really want to encourage you to forget about that, let those thoughts go, and really sort of embrace strength training, especially as we age. We want to increase lean muscle tissue, because that is how we increase our metabolism. That is how we increase our mitochondria, the powerhouses of our cells. We don't want to focus so much on burning calories. We want to focus on building lean muscle tissue. So this could be boot camp classes, CrossFit workouts, Tabata classes, where you have, again, like a short little interval of hard work and then rest. Okay, so those are all examples of short, high intensity training that the body, female body, responds really well to in our 30s, in our 40s, in our 50s. Okay, if you are, and I know I have a lot of people who follow my page that are runners and triathletes. I am not here to tell you not to do what you love. If you love running, if you love triathlon, do that, right? Do what you love. But I would really encourage you to, if let's say you're a runner and you do 3 runs a week, okay, really build into your plan some high intensity intervals into your run workouts, so that you're not going at a same steady pace all the time. It could look like a hill interval workout or a speed interval workout, where you do a warm up and then you do a very short and very fast high intensity burst running up a hill, let's say for 30 seconds as fast as you can, and then coming back down, recovering for a minute or two, catch your breath, and then do that again. That is a way to bring in elements of high intensity interval training into a runner's or triathlete's workout. You can do that in the pool as well. You can do that on a stationary bike or trainer bike, on a Peloton bike, adding in those intervals. So not going at the same pace all the time. That's really important. All right, so that's how we would address cortisol from a stress perspective, and specifically looking at exercise to control insulin. So remember, the base of our pyramid of hormones that affect physiology, the base is insulin and cortisol. All right, so cortisol is all about managing stress. Insulin is all about managing food. Okay, to control insulin, we want to look at our food choices. We want to lower our overall starch and sugar intake. Okay, starch and sugar. Starchy, refined carbs, things like bread, cereal, oatmeal, pasta, crackers, just all the stuff that's, that you look at the label, and enriched flour is one of the first ingredients, or some type of flour, some type of sugar. When we eat those things, those foods are high glycemic, okay? And when I say everyone, I'm probably going to get a lot of comments about oatmeal. I thought oatmeal's good. Oatmeal is good, but go for like steel cut oatmeal or whole rolled oats, and then add protein to it, add nuts, add berries, things that bring down the overall glycemic load of oatmeal. Because sometimes when people order or make oatmeal and it's just, instant oats and mixed with water, and then you put a little brown sugar or honey on top, that's a very high glycemic meal that causes our body to secrete insulin in large amounts to pull that sugar out of our bloodstream. Okay, so we want to make choices that are low glycemic versus high glycemic. The more whole foods that are low glycemic in our body, the less our pancreas will have to work to release a lot of insulin to pull that sugar out of our bloodstream. So moving away from our refined starchy carbs and instead replacing them with higher protein, higher plant fiber. So instead of your, toast with peanut butter in the morning, maybe you have a couple of eggs, and in the same pan that you're cooking your eggs, you throw in a couple handfuls of spinach the last second, you let it turn bright green, and you eat your eggs on a bed of leafy greens. That would be an example of moving from a high glycemic, more refined carbohydrate breakfast to a low glycemic, low sugar, high protein, high plant fiber breakfast. Okay, so that's just one example of that. In the month of January with my Well-Rooted 30 coaching group, we have a challenge every month, and our challenge for January was to really work on reducing our added sugar intake. And the goal for everybody set a little bit different goal. Some people did no added sugar, some people did 10 grams or less of added sugar, and some people did 24 grams or less of added refined sugar. And it was incredible how well they did, how much their eyes were open to hidden sugars in different foods that they would normally eat. It's amazing the choices that they made instead of usual choices that would have been high sugar. They found other things, and they improved the overall quality and nutrient density of their diet. So really, it's something that we all can do with just a little bit more awareness of checking labels and looking at on the back of the ingredient label, looking for added sugar grams and finding out where that is sneaking in and trying to reduce that. Okay, so decreasing our overall sugar load in our body helps our body to manage our blood sugar, balance our blood sugar better, and to control insulin. Okay, if you've been to the doctor recently and you've had blood work done and they've told you that your fasted blood glucose is high, it's borderline high, you're almost type 2 diabetic, or perhaps you had your A1C checked and it's creeping upward, it's trending, maybe they haven't told you that you need medication for it yet, but we're going to check back and we'll keep an eye on it. Do something about it now. Take control of it now through diet and through exercise versus waiting for the next year to come by, getting that lab work done, and then getting some bad news that you really don't want to hear, okay? Because it is manageable. Blood sugar responds very well to changes in diet as well as exercise. So know that you really do have that power to change that, okay? So too much cortisol, the stress hormone, causes insulin resistance, okay? And too much insulin causes insulin resistance. So they both, the cortisol and the insulin together, if we have too much of those, we set ourselves up for insulin resistance. Insulin resistance basically means that our body does not know how to manage sugar coming in. Like it's the pancreas has almost been overworked so much that it doesn't know how to handle that incoming sugar, and so it just keeps putting out more and more and more insulin, okay, until it's too much. What we want instead is to become more insulin sensitive. As we lower our overall sugar intake and we create an exercise routine that really supports our cortisol release, then our body can become more sensitive, more insulin sensitive, less insulin resistant. That means if we're insulin sensitive, if you eat, let's say you have something that is kind of higher on the glycemic scale. Let's say you have a bowl of ice cream, okay? If you're insulin sensitive, and you don't eat ice cream that often, okay? You have a bowl of ice cream, you're insulin sensitive, your pancreas senses the blood sugar in your in your bloodstream. It releases just the right amount of insulin to shuttle that blood sugar out of your bloodstream, and then it's done. Okay, so sugar comes in, insulin, just the right amount released, puts it away, stores it away. If you're insulin resistant, you eat that bowl of ice cream, your pancreas goes into overdrive. It puts out more and more and more insulin, and the body is not very good or efficient at removing that blood sugar from the bloodstream. So the goal is to become more insulin sensitive, less insulin resistant. We can do that through dietary choices and through the right type of exercise for your body at the stage that you're in. All right, so what I want to talk about now is perimenopause and menopausal fat loss, right? Fun stuff. So as women go through perimenopause and menopause, estrogen and progesterone fall, okay? It just does. That's just what our body's natural shift in hormones. Estrogen and progesterone drop, which makes you more insulin resistant. Our body is less efficient at managing sugar. We are less able to tolerate sugar in the diet. If you maintain your sugar consumption during this time, you're going to gain fat around your belly. Why? Because your body is more insulin resistant due to the drop in hormones. All right, so your body at this stage becomes more stress reactive. It's kind of like very sensitive to things, and every amount of stress creates a bigger burden on the body. So now is the time for a different approach to diet and exercise, all right? And a lot of times you never hear this. You just think you're just supposed to keep going. This is part of life. This is the change. I should just expect it. No, okay? Instead, what you want to do from a dietary perspective is you want to lower your carbohydrate intake. You want to really make sure you are getting enough protein and increasing, and for most people that's increasing their protein intake, and you want to increase your strength training, weight training, all right? So those are the three things. As you go through perimenopause and settle into menopause, lower your carbohydrate intake, specifically refined carbohydrates, floury, sugary carbs, increase your protein, high quality proteins, and increase your strength training. That's the trifecta, those three things. You want to move from a lower calorie diet to a lower carbohydrate diet. I see this happening again and again with women as they go through these changes in their middle to late 40s, early 50s. There's almost a panic, like as they see their body changing and that yet they're still working out, they think that in order to counteract that, they should just eat less. They should just cut back another 200 calories. And that's a really common mistake. Reducing calories at this point makes it worse. Why? Because the calorie restriction is another stressor on a very stress reactive body. So it's almost like pouring fuel on the fire. You'll become a little arsonist where you're trying to exercise more, you're trying to eat less, you're not sleeping well, which is the big stressor, and all of that combines into making you not feel good. So instead of reducing calories, you want to maintain them, but really focus on high quality proteins and reducing the refined, sugary, concentrated carbohydrates, concentrated sugar carbohydrates, things like fruit juices, dried fruit, things like that. So those are not, like dried fruit doesn't necessarily have a lot of added sugar. It might, but it is a concentrated sugar. So that's something else that you'd want to stay away from. So from an exercise perspective at this point, you want to move from long runs to HIIT, high intensity interval training, and relaxation inducing long, slow walks. Okay. Why? Because long, slow walks, it's not about the calorie burn at all. Just try to put the idea of measuring how many calories you burned on your workout, put that out of your mind. A long walk, particularly outside, which is more stress reducing, it lowers your cortisol level. Every time you go outside for a nice long walk, well, it's not really nice outside today, but every time you go out for a nice walk, long walk, you're lowering your body's production of cortisol, that stress hormone that should be dropping throughout the day, right? We're not focusing on just burning calories, getting on the treadmill, getting on the elliptical, 15 more minutes, 20 more minutes, get more calories burned. Instead, we're thinking about how we are lowering our cortisol levels and working with our hormones. In addition to the strength training, the relaxing walks, this would be a great time to bring yoga into your practice, Tai Chi, meditation. All of those things have a very calming, very cortisol reducing effect on an overly stressed body. Okay. So weights and walking, if I could, just distill what I just said down into a takeaway for you, more weights and more walking. That is really the secret sauce for women who are going through perimenopause and menopause and want to avoid what feels like the assumed gain of weight in the belly, loss of lean muscle tissue, all of that. Weights and walking. All right, now I want to move into fat loss for different body types, okay? So we all know that everyone, kind of has a different build, just a natural build, and we do the best we can with the body that we were given, but there are certain tendencies to gain weight either in the lower body or more in the middle. And whatever you are, whatever your tendency tends to be, there are very specific approaches to help mitigate that weight gain in that area. Okay. So if you tend to be, I don't know, I always laugh when I talk about the fruit shapes. Okay. So we all learned like there's a pear shape, which is more, you tend to gain weight in your lower body, your legs, your butt, your thighs. Your upper body might be quite lean, but if you start to gain weight, it's in the legs and butt. Pear shape is what we call that. So how do we deal with this? We deal with this with a food-focused approach. You would move to a lower carbohydrate diet. Excess carbohydrates, if you have this tendency to gain weight in your lower body, is going to pile it on even faster, okay? So if we're talking specifics, around 100 grams of carbohydrate from whole foods per day, you actually may need to reduce the amount of fruit in your diet because this body type tends to be very insulin resistant, not great at managing sugar. And so if you, feel like you eat pretty well, but you eat lots and lots and lots of fruit every day, you may want to experiment with pulling back on that to get the overall carbohydrate count lower so that you can be less insulin resistant, okay? So that's the food. Lower the carbohydrate, increase the protein, and increase plant fiber from low glycemic vegetables, okay? So ramp up the intensity of your exercise if you are the pear-shaped person who struggles with weight gain in your lower body. This is from both a strength and cardio perspective. Do not increase the duration of your exercise, okay? Ramp up intensity. So you're going to work harder during the time period of your workout, but you're not going to go longer. And this is a really common problem I see for women that just, they're working hard. They want to see results. So they figure if I do an hour and I'm not seeing results, maybe I should do an hour and a half. And instead, you're getting diminished returns, okay? So 20 to 30 minutes of a high intensity workout, the things that I mentioned earlier, would be a good exercise routine for this body type that's trying to lose that lower body weight. And then the question always comes up about weighing. How often should I weigh myself? Every time I get on the scale, I get upset with myself, and then I sabotage or I feel discouraged. I am not a big scale person, promoter. If you want to measure your progress, I would measure instead. So if you want to see how your body is changing using these techniques, you would want to measure at the hips and the waist and the thighs at the widest point of the body, and do it every 4 weeks. That is much more effective than getting on the scale. The scale doesn't measure changes in lean body composition. It doesn't really account, well, some of the fancier scales do account for changes in hydration status, but really just get the old tape measure out if you want to track your progress, and do it every 4 weeks. Don't do it every day. You'll make yourself crazy. But just kind of use it as a benchmark. It's just data to check and see what you're doing, how that's affecting you. So lower body fat is very stubborn, especially for women. So consistency is key. You can't just do it for like 2 weeks and then give up and say it's too hard. Just keep going, but keep following this formula. Women have less beta, more alpha receptors in our lower body, so less burn, less fat burn, and more anti-burn. Just, it is what it is. So knowing that, to burn fat in the legs, in the lower body, you need to increase blood flow to that body part. That means if you're weight training, good. You want to be doing full range, recruiting as many muscles as you can in different movements. So this is like squats, lunges, deadlifts. Those are all great for improving that blood flow, increasing that lean muscle tissue in the legs, and helping to burn that excess fat in the lower body. Okay, so that's the lovely pear shape. The other body type shape that we're going to address is more of an apple. Okay, the apple is someone who, when they gain weight, they kind of gain it evenly all throughout the body, and particularly in the belly area, in the midsection. All right, whereas the pear might have a flatter belly, wider lower body, the apple holds it more in the middle. All right, so hormones are at play with belly fat: cortisol, insulin, testosterone, progesterone. So the approach we take with belly fat is more of a stress reducing approach. The pear shape was more of a food approach, right? Now for the hormonal issue, we approach it more from a stress reduction approach. So this really forces you to take your whole day, your whole lifestyle into account, and think about how you can mitigate your stress and how you can find ways to add stress reducing activities into your life. Sometimes you can't change your life, you can't change the stressors that are happening around you, but you can sort of add in some relaxation. All right, so the worst thing for belly fat is long duration cardio. Okay, the worst thing for belly fat is long duration cardio. That's like steady state. You're at the gym and you see that person who runs on the treadmill all the time, probably the same treadmill, probably the same speed. Their body hasn't changed in years, even though they're there all the time. That is because they are creating a lot of stress hormone in that workout, okay? Especially if they're doing it at a heart rate that is above their optimal fat burning zone, where they're kind of hanging out in the middle. They're burning mostly sugar, they're burning calories, they're burning off the breakfast that they just ate that's in their bloodstream, and then they're not really getting into the stored fat, and they're not building lean muscle tissue, which is really, really essential. You don't need, from a food perspective, you don't need to eat as low carb as the lower body fat type, the pear type. So carbohydrates a little bit higher, more like 125 grams per day of whole food carbs. Exercise, we know long course cardio is not optimal for belly fat, but what is? High intensity exercise, 3 to 4 times a week, around 30 minutes or less, 20 to 30 minutes, if it's a good hard effort. If your high intensity intervals should be at pretty much an all out effort. Let's say you are running up a hill for your high intensity training workout. At the top of that hill, you should be mouth open, drop, gasping for air. That means you went at an all-out effort. If you just kind of went at 70% and your heart rate just kind of creeped up a little bit, but you're not even winded when you're at the top of the hill, then you didn't perform that interval at the prescribed effort level. High intensity interval training means high intensity. It means almost a like sprint, all-out effort. I say almost sprint because I don't want you to break form and like hurt yourself, get injured. You don't want to be like running crazy, maintaining great form, but going at a very high intensity. That is what triggers the type of hormonal release, the testosterone release that helps to build the lean muscle tissue. All right, so sprint efforts, less than 30 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. And that's the cool thing about this, you guys. It doesn't take forever. I know nobody's got like tons of free time to just like go out and go for a run for 2 hours or ride their bike forever. The effective workouts to target belly fat or low body fat or just to manage your hormones are short. They're 30 minutes or less. It's not more is more, it's less is more when it comes to this. And I know that's a really difficult concept to grasp. For me personally, it took me years to figure that out. In my 20s and 30s, I was a long course endurance athlete. I did marathons, I did triathlons, I did relays where we ran from Wisconsin to Chicago overnight. I mean, it was like sleep deprivation and lots of long runs. That did not sit well in my body. It was okay in my 20s, right? And 30s, early 30s. But by my late 30s, I could feel that this was not the ideal type of exercise for me. And that's when I had to start really digging into this, researching it, observing in my own body what was happening, and then make the shifts, move from long, steady cardio sessions that are just, they're really relaxing, right? We get a runner's high from it. That's why we keep doing it. But to more high intensity, short burst workouts, a lot more strength training. When I was a triathlete and runner, I would do strength training. I would kid myself and, say, I do weights 3 times a week. And it was like 10 to 15 minutes tacked on after my long run. But instead, now that I'm in my 40s, 46 to be exact, my focus has definitely shifted to strength training 3 to 4 times a week. Walks, I walk Henry all the time, probably an hour and a half a day. And then yoga here and there, ideally twice a week, 3 times a week if I can. But that is the formula that has really changed my body and increased my strength. I'm fitter now than I was in my 20s when I ran my first marathon. I can still run. I still have a good engine, good cardiovascular system, but I just don't run as long. Okay. So little side note there, but I just want you to know kind of where I'm coming from. So the longer the workout, the more cortisol production. Okay, if you are training for a marathon, half marathon, long course triathlon, those workouts are long. Your body produces a lot of cortisol in the process. If that is your exercise of choice and you that's what you want to do, then by all means do it. Follow your dream to do that, but support your body and your lifestyle in different ways. So make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep a night. Make sure you're eating clean, making sure you're getting all of your protein in, all of your vegetables in, reducing sugar, reducing that extra stress burden that comes from that, okay? Because the longer the workout, the more cortisol production. With belly fat, back to belly fat for a second, because I know that is just a really annoying thing for a lot of women, and men too, but particularly women. We just don't like carrying that extra stuff around. With belly fat, skipping meals is not optimal for that, okay? Don't like skip lunch because you think that that's going to help you flatten your belly. Skipping meals, middle of the day, is another stressor. Stressors, we know, increases cortisol. Cortisol is at the base of the pyramid, right? So calorie restriction, skipping meals is not ideal for belly fat. You want to eat regularly, because not eating regularly, eating erratically, is another form of stress. With belly fat, there's also another angle which you can explore, and that is to look at whether gluten or dairy or both are foods that are causing a sort of intolerance or allergy or a sensitivity in your body and creating bloat, forcing your body to kind of hang on to excess stuff in your belly. I've seen that with a lot of clients. They took the time to experiment with removing dairy or gluten for a certain period of time, and then adding it back, and then recognizing that there was a response, and their belly started to, shrink once they removed the irritating trigger food. Okay, so that's another thing. And then with belly fat, we need to find ways to relax. We need to seek out little bursts of relaxation and put them into our day, okay? That could be a 5-minute meditation or deep breathing where you just breathe in through your nose and out through your nose and trigger that parasympathetic nervous system that kind of signals to your brain and your body that you are okay, that you're safe. You don't need to be pumping out tons of cortisol or adrenaline. You're okay. We activate that response through deep breathing. All right. Adding in something simple like an Epsom salt bath, at night, a little soak in the tub with Epsom salt to help boost the magnesium levels in your body. I did a post yesterday about magnesium-rich foods and the importance of that. And then, of course, sleep. Really prioritizing sleep, and not just like forcing yourself to sleep, but thinking about how you're setting up your day so that sleep is the natural end result to your day. Because really, a good night's sleep starts from the moment we wake up in the morning. What we do in the morning really sets the tone for how we're going to sleep at night. And it's about creating rhythms in our body so that sleep becomes natural. And one of the best things you can do for that is to get sun exposure in the morning on your eyelids. So even if you just go to a window where the sun is streaming in, get that sunlight. That really helps to set the circadian rhythm. All right. And one final note on belly fat. Not from a vanity perspective at all, because this is not about looking hot in your bikini or having 6-pack abs. This is all about longevity and preventing illness and chronic disease and just living your best life, feeling good in your own body, and just, having the energy and ability to do what you want in your body. Belly fat is particularly concerning because of where it sits, okay? All those organs, our liver, our kidneys, our intestines, large and small intestine, that the fat that is in our belly is sitting and compressing all of those organs, and it's really not good. It increases our risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, even cancer. So really, taking a different approach to belly fat, understanding how all the different lifestyle choices that you make affect that, and really managing stress and managing insulin through diet, managing stress, right, through exercise and through sleep, and managing insulin through diet has a huge impact on how our body stores fat and our body's ability to burn fat. Okay, so I hope that gave you some new information. Hopefully it gave you some ideas of what you might want to do with your own exercise workout routine. One thing that I do with my clients is we kind of create what's their ideal exercise prescription, and we call it a prescription because it is as important as a prescription that you would get for a medical condition. So it's taking an inventory of what you're doing, what's working well, and be willing to change things up, you guys. Just because you've done things the same way for years and years and it's worked, but now it doesn't work, there's a reason for that, because your body's going through hormonal changes, and so you need to go through and support it with lifestyle changes as well. So remember, weights and walks. Lift your weights and take your walks. Be willing to change things up. Recognize when something is not working, and don't keep doing it the same way. And reach out for help, okay? Feel free to message me. I do a limited amount of one-on-one coaching. I do a group program for women, which is called Well Rooted 30. It's a fantastic program that goes way in depth to all the things that I talked about here. As I mentioned, hitting your protein intake. In our Well Rooted 30 program, we have a whole lesson on protein and calculating just the right amount for your body, and then choosing the best protein sources for you. So, just a really great foundation for your overall wellness and health. That's called wellrooted30.com if you're interested in that type of group support. And then lastly, I want to invite each of you and encourage you to grab a friend or two and join my free 5 days Well Rooted challenge that I am doing next week. It's February 15th through the 19th. This is something that I did last April, and it was hugely successful and so much fun, and everybody felt better at the end of the 5 days. So it's free. You just I'll put a link if you want to sign up for it in the comments below. But you just show up, you listen to a little short video. I'll do a Facebook Live video with you each morning. I'll give you a little lesson on a healthy lifestyle action item for the day, and you work on that for the day. We have a big Facebook group where everybody is super supportive of one another. And we keep building. We stack one healthy habit on top of the other. And by the end of the 5 days, you will feel better. I mean, it's as simple as that. So please join me for that. You still have time to join. Again, we start on the 15th. It's free, and it'll make you feel good, and it'll be a lot of fun. So anyways, thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate all of you showing up. I'm going to scroll back and see if there's any questions. Carolyn, hi Meredith, you may get to this, but if exercise is a stressor, will exercising in the afternoon or evening increase cortisol and disturb sleep? Is exercise therefore best in the morning? Great question. Pretty much yes. Like ideally, I don't like to tell people exactly what to do. I honor that they have their own day and their own life and their own schedule that works best for them. If I could paint the ideal day, I would have you exercise in the morning because of that cortisol effect. Cortisol is highest in the morning. You get that workout in, and then it lowers throughout the day. If I have a client who has a very stressful job all day, he does his workout at night before he goes to bed because he has a big race goal, and that is the only time that he can get that workout in. And he says it also helps him kind of fall asleep. He just kind of crashes into sleep. He does have a little bit of trouble staying asleep, I think. But you got to work with your schedule. If evening or late in the day is the only time that you can exercise, then still exercise. Don't be sedentary, but really take into account the things that I told you about what you should be doing during that exercise. So instead of a long, steady run in the evening before you go to bed, it might be yoga to induce relaxation, or it might be a walk, or it might be a short 20 minutes or less high intensity interval training workout that doesn't create a huge dump of cortisol before you go to bed. So great question. All right. Okay, guys. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for attending. Let me know what other topics you're interested in. I'm happy to jump on and do this with you guys on a regular basis. But please join the 5 days Well Rooted free challenge next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'd love to have each and every one of you join. And together we will feel better. We will lower our stress. And yeah, we'll support each other along the way. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.